most people aren't willing to continue to do something if the results aren't here. But
Yep.
it's those people that give up in the third quarter that never see the fruits of their labor when the fourth quarter hits, and then all of a sudden you hit the buzzer beater and you have this big break, and then everything that you've been working towards comes into your life, and you're like, this is what I've been waiting for. But
Yep.
you had to remain persistent, and you had to continue to do the things that other people weren't doing in order to receive that blessing.
Yeah. I mean, you're so right, because when you don't get any sort of acknowledgement for the sacrifices you're making, a lot of people can just go into, well, then it's not worth it, right? But I think about it like compound interest, right? It's like it's not you're not going to wake up one day with like a six pack, right? Because you went to the gym one time, right? It's because you're doing things consistently over a long period of time. And it's the same with investing, same with anything, right? It's like small incremental improvements over time create really large changes. And you have to be able to, like he had said, sit in it and just accept the fact that you're making change even if you can't measure it, right? It's easy to find reasons to stop doing something. Like it's easy to be like, oh, well, I don't have to do this, or, whatever else, or to kind of make excuses for yourself. But the sheer satisfaction you get after being able to kind of persevere and get opportunities that other people aren't getting, or creating other things that other people haven't, because of just your tenacity and unwillingness to give up, is a high that's like, they call it like a runner's high, right? I've never gotten one because I don't like to run, but I imagine this is similar to what it is. You just feel good and you're like, okay, yeah, all right. Like I see why people do this. I see why people work hard, but you have to be able to stay in there and just work through it, because success doesn't come easy. Otherwise, everybody would be successful.
Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate you having me, man.
Absolutely, brother. So, Matt, let's get into it. You are the vice president of digital media at UMB Financial. You're the founder of Digital Rabbit. You're the founder of Street Support KC. You got a lot of things going on, man. How do you manage all of it?
This week especially, honestly, there's been a few moments where I'm like, I think I might be doing too much. But honestly, it's just all about making balance for what you find important in your life. Like I've been really lucky that my day job has been like really rewarding when it comes to learning new things with digital media, which involves like streaming and uh, doing podcast advertising and doing SEO, and it's opened up a lot of doors for me. And other areas like with Digital Rabbit, where I've been able to take my skills and help other smaller businesses usually kind of get off the ground and optimize their website and just get a better footprint online, which is so important these days. And then the nonprofit's really like I would say my main thing that I'm like really passionate about, because uh, it's just so rewarding to actually give back to people and like see that immediate return. Like there's a lot of products or problems that maybe I could solve, like, or have a small part in, but like directly impacting somebody's day and dozens of people's day, and like seeing that like look on their face is like really rewarding. So you just have to find those little moments like that to kind of keep you going when everything seems really busy. But it's been fun to wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah, it certainly keeps life interesting, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So, diving into the marketing piece, because you've been working in marketing for ever since college, 10,
Yeah.
15 years, right?
Yeah. I started doing marketing. Originally, I started off in journalism in college, and then I figured that I really just enjoyed writing and transitioned more to like the marketing, like content side. And I've been doing that since 2013, and then doing digital advertising solely for the last probably 7, 8 years, like and kind of all facets of like digital marketing. So whether it's websites, SEO, digital advertising, pretty much every area I've been involved with.
So when looking at small to medium sized businesses, where maybe the owner or the leadership team has a really old, dated website, they've
Yeah.
known nothing about SEO. I imagine it's a hard sell many times to convince these business owners who are successful, but yet have reservations to optimize SEO, to get a new website, to really be proactive in developing an online presence. I can only imagine you have a lot of pushback from those guys because they're like, I don't need online, I don't need anything digital. I've gotten to where I am today because of brick and mortar of me doing these things. Like, how hard is that to make that sell?
Yeah, I mean, it's to be honest, pre-pandemic, it was incredibly hard because people were like, I'm always going to have my store here. I don't need a website. I'll just sell through here. And unfortunately, a lot of those, especially smaller businesses that rely on a lot of foot traffic, like were really affected during that time and some never recovered. And so I don't run into the argument of like, hey, this I'm always going to be here. Like I think people understand that having alternative way of selling makes sense. I think what happens a lot of times is either vendors, people looking to approach these companies through website or SEO, hide behind like a lot of fancy metrics and KPIs, and like they don't speak to the actual business owner who is concerned about things more than like click through rate and like number of impressions. It's like it comes down to revenue, it comes down to leads generated, it comes down to things that actually affect the bottom line of his business. And I think for a long time, there was a lot of hesitancy to put any sort of kind of stake in the ground or measurement. And some people in the industry in general just still don't want to be like measured on performance. And for a long time with marketing, it was really hard to be measured in performance. But now with digital, it's like you can track everything. And so when I work with people, one of the things I say is like, I want you to track me, like keep me honest. Like I'm going to set up the reporting so you can see exactly how much of an increase you're going to have in this because I know it's going to work. Because unfortunately, a lot of small businesses are so busy with the product they're producing or things like that, and they don't think about their website, which has really become like the digital storefront you have. Like you wouldn't go past, if you're going down the street and you see a retailer that's selling a product you're interested in, but the signage is all askew or like the windows are dirty and like the awning is ripped, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, I don't know about that now, right? Well, that's the same impression people get when they come to your website. Like that's people are checking you out before they go in person. Like time is so valuable these days. People are going to do their research, and whether it's your Google business profile, it's your website, or anything online, like if you don't have that optimized, like you're turning people off to your brand before they even give it a shot. So I think when you kind of put it in those terms, people like start to understand it. But I think the biggest disagreement is just what someone's willing to pay and what the value of those services are. So that's probably more of what I run into, to be honest, versus like maybe not understanding some of the marketing services we offer now.
Yeah, well, the description you made of an actual physical storefront and things being off, it not having a clean look to it, the sign being askew, that resonated deeply with me in regards to
Yeah,
you're right. Like your website is your digital presence. It is the first impression that someone sees even before they get to a physical storefront most
yeah,
times. And so if that thing is not optimized, if it's scattered, if it's not direct in the messaging, it can really
yeah.
turn people off and you can lose business, you can lose money very quickly if that stuff isn't optimized.
And you're right. There's so many things. In fact, I used to do a lot of like local SEO and doing like Google review programs and stuff like that. And the stat that they had was that a 1 star difference makes about a 9% difference in revenue per year
Hmm.
because there's just there's so much information online now and people are comparing and there's so many providers and things like that that things like Google ratings and like sourced reviews from like just the general public is are so important these days. And that's been a big focus when I work with clients is like, that's one of the first things people see. Like Amazon has gotten us used to the fact that I can distill an entire company's reputation into a number between 0 and 5, right? And
Hmm.
there's a reason that Amazon has buttons like 4 star and above because people want to know that they're buying quality products. So if you're a retailer, you're, a restaurant, you're whatever else, and you're not looking at the reviews and what people are writing about you online, your first impression may be like, oh, this is a 1.7 business. And you'd be like, oh, well, then what maniac is going to go there for any product they ever need? Like that people don't do that. So even coming down to like what people are saying about you online after they have that experience, right? They're looking at you before they go in, they're probably doing research, but then also you have to know what they're saying about your experience online after that. So it's a lot of different areas that are new, obviously, and I think business owners maybe aren't maybe they're used to like feedback cards or things like that, but you know, now there's so many different avenues online where your reputation matters, whether it's your website, whether it's your social media, whether it's your Google reviews, that you just have to be in the game because if you're not, you're not taking control of the conversation about your business online.
Yeah, that reviews piece is so interesting. Actually, I have a client who on their scorecard tracking their KPIs, one of their metrics is to have a certain amount of positive reviews each week.
Yeah,
And they've implemented into their processes for their salespeople, for their delivery people to make sure that they're getting reviews because they are so valuable in
they
growing
are.
the business. I mean, it's everything for them. And so that's really interesting that you touch on that aspect. And I feel like the older generation, and really actually any generation, sometimes it seems like marketing is just an unknown space for many people. It's like we know we need it, but like how much do we actually need it? How much needs to be online? Like, is social media really going to help drive business? How do you direct those conversations with people and helping them to see the light in that, this is going to get you an ROI. This is going to lead to more dollars for your business.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think that's a question that probably literally everybody in marketing struggles with is how do you get buy-in, right? Like, I think it's, going back to question earlier, like people understand they need it, but they don't necessarily know why or how it's going to help. And there's a quote from David Ogilvy, who's kind of a giant in like the advertising and PR space, where he said, I know half my advertising isn't working. I just don't know which half. And for the
Mm,
longest time, without any sort of like reporting or metrics, it became really hard. And so it's hard to A/B test with no results. Like, how do you know that, in the 1970s, that like it was the billboards, it was the TVs, or whatever else? Like you could ask people, but it wasn't tracked the way it is now. And I think that's the really nice part about all of the digital tracking and reporting and analytics tools right now is that you can really track somebody all the way from, okay, they saw an ad to they went all the way through and went to the website, they filled out a form, they talked to sales, here's where the different touch points were, and then here's the open opportunity in the CRM, and then here's the one opportunity. You can actually track it all the way through to be, okay, I saw the impression to this is their annual first year revenue. So like now that we've got that tracking in place, the conversations are a little more uh, like science based as opposed to more of an art based type approach maybe that was used before. I mean, everybody, I think, and this might be part of the problem when it comes to uh, people's thoughts or feelings around marketing and advertising is like you think of like Mad Men, right? You think about a bunch of guys like sitting around a table, like drinking whiskey and like, smoking cigars and coming up with the next tagline for like Hershey's chocolate syrup or something like that. But that's not like that's such an old school way of doing it. And I think that's the type of stuff that might be seen as like cooler, more in the mainstream. In reality, like what I deal with is like spreadsheets and numbers, and it's like anything I present is not feeling based; it's all fact based. And so I think that's the understood part is people see what they have in like movies and TV shows about like ad execs or marketing or whatever else. And it's really different in real life, especially over the last 10 years or so as digital really invades more of that space.
yeah. And I think the other piece to that, Matt, is that I particularly have a lot of clients that have been burned by marketing agencies.
Yeah,
Not all marketers, not all agencies are built the same, right? And
true.
so also this perception out there of like I of I don't want to get burned. I've spent all this money in the past with no return. To
Yep.
that point, it is no wonder why people are hesitant to engage an agency to come on as an external source for marketing. But to the flip side of that, if you actually get a credible agency or a
Yep.
legit marketer on your team, it can make the difference between you growing exponentially and you staying the same or possibly even declining in revenue.
No, I mean, you're 100% right. I think, unfortunately, there are bad actors in marketing like there are any industry, right? Where it's like the attention to detail or the actual work and tracking results and making sure that what you're doing is successful is secondary to just winning new accounts, right? And that can turn a lot of people off. And I've met a lot of people that have been like, yeah, I've had a really bad experience, like when it comes to that sort of stuff, and it's hard to overcome that unless you really what I really advise every company to do, especially when they're working with a new marketing agency, is like start off slow, right? Like start a lot more stuff is becoming project based. I mean, their retainers still exist and things like that, and you can have, yearly agreements and contracts and whatnot. But I'm seeing a lot more project-based work, like in the marketing and advertising agency. So start off small, and get a feeling not just for the work they do, but the processes and like how they're going about, and what are they sharing with you, right? Are they being very open and honest, or are they being kind of um, I don't know, hidden or maybe not as forthcoming or transparent with results. And I think it comes down to, like you were saying, when you find the people that you enjoy working with that are transparent, that help you and make you feel good about spending that money. That's what a good marketing agency and advertising agency will do, is like make sure you know exactly what you're getting for your money and make you feel good about it. You should never be hesitant and be like, well, I know I have to do this, but I don't really understand it. But they do. It's like, well, that's great, but they should be explained to you in a way where you're able to realize what the benefits are and how you're gonna, further your business with that. So, yeah, it's all about finding the right partners and just growing that relationship. And I recommend that just starting off small and then growing over time is probably the best way for both parties, honestly.
Yeah, I had a client that was spending $360,000 a year with a marketing agency, and the president owner couldn't tell me exactly what the agency was doing for them and the results they were producing. And my mind was absolutely blown. That's
It's
an
not.
issue.
Oh, it's 100% an issue, and I think it makes it harder for anybody else that tries to come in and actually clean up probably the mess at that age. I mean, nobody should ever aspire like a point where you're spending medium six figures and not understanding like where your money is going towards. And I think that goes back to just some people hiding behind like the jargon of the industry and making it seem like it's very complex. Like, and I think there is an air of that sometimes where it's very much like, oh, I'd love to explain it to you, but I don't think you'd really understand it. And I'll go back to my comment that I think a really good marketing and advertising person will help you understand it. And they could,
Mm.
because they know it so well, they know how to communicate in a way that you'll understand. And so I think yeah, I mean, that's not that uncommon, unfortunately. Like, and you see that a lot in all sorts of industries, but I mean, I think like, older business owners, people that kind of understand that they need it, but don't really want to get involved or understand like current digital. It's kind of unfortunately that you see a lot of agencies that try to target clients like that, knowing that it might be a little bit looser with their pocketbook.
Mhm. Mhm. And their ability to hold that agency accountable, right? Like if it is
100%, yeah.
this unknown space for them, then the agency may not have to work as hard because the person holding them accountable has no idea what they should be doing, how they should be doing it, how long things should take, and that's an issue.
Yeah,
And
100%.
this the same thing actually happened to me when I started my football recruiting business and platform 10 plus years ago. We invested heavily into technology and building out this online platform. Well, I knew nothing about building out a website or platform. My co-founder knew nothing about it. And we really struggled in holding that development team accountable. And it ended
Yep.
up literally costing us hundreds of thousands in mistakes because we had no idea what we were doing as leaders of this development group. So similar scenario there. And then secondly, I was going to talk about, you said that this is the same issue exists in different industries. The same also is true in the consulting world and the business coaching world. For me, I'm an EOS business coach and have gone into many prospective clients' offices, and they're like, "We've had a business coach in the past. It wasn't worth it. He screwed us, or he led us down this path." And I'm like, "Not all business coaches are built the same." I,
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a great example because that happens in everything, right? It's like all we know is our own experience, and you can be like, hey, you had a terrible experience, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm not that way, right? I mean, it's really not, it happens in work. It also happens in relationships, right? How many times have been like, oh, I had a bad experience with somebody. I'm not sure I want to like, have another relationship, or I'm not sure I want to do this or that. And it's like bad experiences with anything in life, right? turn you off to it, and sometimes you're just not open to trying again. And sometimes the marketing and business world, to people's own detriment, they can have one bad experience, but like, I'm not willing to give, another company or another agency or whatever a chance. And ultimately, you end up just not having an expert or someone that really understands this really crucial part of your business and how to make it work for you and succeed and help you grow. And so all you're doing is really closing yourself from other opportunities. But yeah, it's tough, and trying to sell yourself and build trust and connection with people in a very short period of time can be difficult to do, which I know, when you're talking to new clients, I know I'm not those other guys, right? But it's like, that's what those other guys are also saying. So there's no like surefire way to be like, you can trust me 100%, hook me up to a lie detector test. But I think when you're really passionate about and you feel that you offer things that could genuinely help, I think that comes through, and people can sense that.
Right. And it goes back to referrals and doing the
Yeah,
due diligence on the companies or the groups or the clients that said person has done business with. Getting
yeah,
all the way back full circle to our conversation about reviews and the
yeah,
power of reviews. If you do good work, people will refer you and you won't have to market as hard, but you have to
sure.
have those checks and balances in place so that people are reviewing you and giving you that positive feedback.
Yeah, you have to have social proof. Like, that's what we call it. And so that's where, even if you have a landing page on your website, like having testimonials from people that have enjoyed doing business with you, right? I mean, you see TV ads that are all just testimonials from people, and, not a paid actor underneath and stuff like that, And I think that's just where we're at, is that there is such an access to data and information and technology that now that's coming into rating everything, including, where we buy our t-shirts, who we're going to hire as a plumber, who's going to build our website, who's going to lead EOS for our business. Like, there's just a way to get so much more feedback now. And I think that's a really important part of just kind of going back to the storefront analogy of just managing your storefront and making sure that it's an inviting place and that you're not scaring people off with unintended signage or unintended reviews, bad reviews that you didn't know existed. So yeah, it's really become just a full on, you know, digital first mentality that businesses really have to take, because that's where you can do the greatest success, but it's also where it can kind of hurt you the most too.
Yes. And the last thing I want to talk about in regards to marketing is SEO, because I feel like
Yeah.
SEO is a term that's always thrown out there.
Yeah.
And again, what is the value of SEO? What is it for the audience? And why is it something worth optimizing for any industry?
Yeah. It's a great question. So SEO stands for search engine optimization, but I recently heard someone say that it really should be search everywhere optimization, because with chatbots and all the other ways that people like ChatGPT, where people can do their searches, you have to be able to be found everywhere now. Like, it used to be where Google had 95+%, SEO really meant making sure you get good Google rankings. And now it's just making sure that you're associating your brand with keywords and structuring your website in a way that it can be found across a variety of different search platforms, because that's a huge chunk of where people are finding businesses. And for every person you bring to your website organically through, like, uh, SEO, it's $1 more you don't have to pay out in advertising, right? So you'll see some websites get 100,000 or more worth of like ad spend per month in just free organic traffic, because they spend the time to optimize their pages, do the keyword research, get really good ranking, so that when people are looking for iPhone cases, you show up at number 2 and not number 17. So that's what SEO is. And I think the thing that businesses don't that can be really hard for businesses to understand is that it can be optimized. And like, even if it reads perfectly fine to human beings, what we're doing is really optimizing for the web crawlers out there that are analyzing the websites. And so things like title tags and meta descriptions, and what are your H1 tags, like what are your H2 tags, like do you have alt tags on your images? So it's like all these things that are maybe that a regular customer will never really look at, but they play really critical factors in just helping you rank higher when Google and all these other places are crawling your site and determining where to place you amongst your competitors. So a lot of the work can be hidden, which is tough to know that, oh, I need to improve this or whatever else. But I think if you have good tracking in place and you're able to see everything that the SEO is able to do, and just by a little bit of work, how much you're able to raise organic traffic, I think it's something that businesses, once they see, they start to believe in and they really adopt that kind of SEO optimization mentality with their website, just a continuous improvement.
That was a fantastic explanation. And that even brought some clarity for me. I mean, I think an easy way to describe it when you're talking to a business owner is okay, when you search for something on Google, are you going to the second, third, and fourth page to try to find something to buy? Or are you looking
Yeah,
at the first, second, and third top hits and buying something from there? What's your answer? Okay, there we go. You need to be
100%.
you need to optimize the SEO so that you are on that first page. Otherwise, you're missing out on so much business.
Oh, I mean, the stats as far as the number of people that only stay on page one for Google, it was something like 95 plus percent, maybe 90 plus percent of people don't go to the second page and below, right?
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily, if you're not first, you're last, but if you're not in the top 10, you're might as well be last because people just aren't
Mm.
going to see you. And that can be tough, especially if you're an industry, like if you're a small, like local bank, right? And you're going up against like Wells Fargo and Chase and, you know, all these really large companies. It's like, well, that can be tough, right? Because they just have inherent advantages. And so that comes down really to the keyword strategy too. It's like, well, do I want to rank across the United States, for, best place to get a loan? It's like, well, that'd be amazing, right? But that would be incredibly hard. But what if I was best place to get a loan in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or Kansas City, Missouri, or Sacramento, California? Like you can own certain strategies that are more effective for you to be found in areas that are just like more profitable for you too. So I think that's the benefit of having somebody that really understands your website, is understanding how you should structure your content and where you can do wins, where you can get wins online so you can be in the top 10 and just get found more and, you know, increase your traffic, increase your conversions, and eventually increase your revenue.
Right, right, right. Well, awesome. I loved that whole conversation on marketing, and I hope some of the things we talked about were are valuable to the audience, as valuable as it was for me. Segueing slightly, Matt, talk about your desire to create and found Street Support KC and where the idea came from. Why are you spending all this time going and helping people in the streets of KC?
Yeah. I started about 2 years ago, but about 3 years ago, maybe three and a half, I I was walking to work every day downtown Kansas City. I had an apartment downtown. Work was like 5 blocks away. I would walk past the downtown library every day, and there'd be different alleyways and things like that. And I would just start seeing more and more people experiencing homelessness that were just out there. Like whether it was like 10 degrees, whether it was 70 degrees, like there's always people there and people that didn't have anywhere else to go. And you would just see big groups of people hanging out during the day with nothing really. And so there was a group that was downtown that was helping and trying to give back. And so I started helping volunteering with them and did that for like a year and a half. And then the same day I went to them and was like, I was thinking about, I really want to grow this into a nonprofit where that I can kind of manage and take off. And this group it was a nonprofit, but it was focused more in a different area, and they were just kind of doing this as a side project. They were like, "Oh, well, that's amazing because we actually are not going to continue doing this, so you can take over." So it was great. It was like a year and a half like internship of like how to manage events, like and outreach events for nonprofits. And so uh, in like May of 2023, uh, I officially founded it and got the 501(c)(3) status. And actually, the reason it came about was because I was seeing somebody and that ended, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have a lot of time and energy on my hands. Like, okay, I can either put it into something really good, or I can like probably gain 15 pounds this summer and like just binge watch a whole bunch of TV. And so I just started putting my energy into that and like feeling really good about it. And so I was telling people for a while, I was like, if enough people break up with me, this thing's going to be a huge success. So I think that's the kind of the mentality of like why I started, and what keeps me going is just, I originally started for obviously the people I'm helping, and we get like 50 plus people at every event that are experiencing homelessness and just need help, and we give out blankets, sleeping bags, hygiene kits, flashlights, food, clothes, shoes, like all sorts of things. And the first Saturday of every month. So we see these people over and over and over again and get to know them. And there's a lot of guys showing up where I know on a first name basis, and they're really good guys. They just are really struggling, usually either with like addiction or like mental health issues, or, a litany of like other things that either was the cause for them being on the streets, or living on the streets just exacerbates it and makes it even worse. But they're just good guys that are just hard to pull out of kind of the current lifestyle they're in. And then on the flip side, like the other thing that keeps me going is just the volunteers themselves. Like I really didn't think about the role of like how it would be helpful like, to volunteers, but I get people that tell me like, hey, I started volunteering here, and I did it because I had a brother that passed away from homelessness. Like he died in his car because he didn't have anywhere to go. And like you start realizing that it's like, oh well, it's just so much bigger than me at this point. Like, and it's just a good way for people to connect. And so it's a lot of work, but it's also just been a really cool experience to kind of create this little community of volunteers and people experiencing homelessness, and just trying to do what we can in Kansas City to help people out.
Well, how cool of you to focus that energy onto an incredibly good project that is
Yeah.
benefiting hundreds and hundreds of people versus dwelling after, a tough relationship, which is all too easy to do, to, mope around, to be
Yeah.
sad, and, to, like you said, kind of just let the energy go to places it shouldn't. So props to you there,
Yeah.
because we've
Thanks,
all
man.
been in that place where we're not in a good headspace after a failed relationship. So props to you on that.
Thanks, brother.
Secondly, I want to dive deep into homelessness and
Yeah.
the people that are homeless, because I you can talk to this far better than I can, but I feel like there's this perception out there of like, oh, they're homeless. They did this to themselves. Why would we want to spend the time to help them? They're just muddying up our streets. They're making our streets unsafe. Like,
Yeah.
why should we help homeless people? And how wrong is that perception?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, that's something that, I mean, I'll be honest, I held those views like at one point, thinking that like not realizing maybe the systemic like headwinds that people face when they're low income and kind of hanging on the branch of like poverty and homelessness, as well as just what it's like once you actually get to be homeless. But that's like a huge, I mean, there's still a stigma around being homeless, because we tend to think, or we want to think really, that if we work hard and we get a job, we all have a place to live. Like that used to be true. I don't think that's as true anymore. Like if you're making $12 an hour, and housing is $1,000 a month, in a big metro city, it's like, oh, okay. Like I've met people that have full-time jobs that work 40 hours a week and sleep in the park across from their work because they have nowhere to go. So I think just the idea that every single person who's homeless right now, if we give them a job, it's like they'd be off the street, right? Or the other thing I hear a lot is like, well, if it's because of addiction, it's like, well, that's that person, right? Like we don't seem to have the same sort of empathy towards people that have, a disease of alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever, the same way we would that somebody that has like, you know, another disease like cancer or whatever else. But you meet some of these people and it's like it is an actual disease. It's something that every one of them would give anything to stop, but it just because of your situation and then living on the street, it makes it even harder to stop doing drugs, which may be like the thing that gives you your only joy of like the entire day that helps you like escape. And so I think we tend to just have a negative stigma of drug users and alcoholics in general. And then you compound that with, oh, they're living on the streets. It's like, well, if they cleaned up their act, then they wouldn't have an issue. And it's like, that's simplifying it to a level that just isn't really realistic, right? Like we've all met people that struggle with drugs and alcohol, right? We've all met people that have like lost their job or have been like living paycheck to paycheck. Like I think we all want to think, well, it couldn't be me, and we wouldn't live in a society where people like myself, who's a good person and does whatever and has a job, could go live on the streets. But unfortunately, we do. And so I think people, especially with like the cost of living crisis and like, just income inequality that exists and it's kind of been exacerbated over the last like several years, I think people are kind of starting to understand that more, right? That there are larger headwinds that face everybody when it comes to having affordable housing, having a consistent, stable job, a lot of things that are outside of our control. So I do feel like it's starting to shift a little bit, but unfortunately, at the same time, that conversation has shifted. We've had even more people become homeless. I think last year was 18% increase in homelessness across the United States as housing continues to be unaffordable. We kind of looks like we're entering a recession here. So it makes it tough, but I think education is one of the things that I think I've been able to do is try and show individual stories and try and humanize it, right? Because of a lot of different nonprofits that exist out there, there is a certain segment of people that believe, yeah, homelessness, it's like, well, there's no victims here. Everybody here is there because of the own choices they created. And it's not true, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and what are your thoughts on the solution to it? Because, Street Support KC, you are there supporting these people who are homeless with the codes, wellness kits,
Oh, yeah, the hygiene kits and like
the hygiene kits, the
comfort kits. Yeah.
gloves, the
Yeah.
sleeping bags. So, you know, that is wonderful, and you are providing an
Yeah.
amazing service to these people, but that's still not really touching the root cause of what's causing those people to get there in the
Yeah.
first place. So in your opinion, what is the root cause, and how do you start to combat that?
Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, and I would love it if my organization didn't need to exist in the future, right? Because the only reason we're out doing what we're doing is because homelessness just is a reality. And so, how do we help the people now that we're in the situation we are? But how do we get out of this situation? I mean, I think it comes down to a few things. Like, number one is just affordable housing. Like, we're just simply not, we just don't have enough low income housing, and we just don't have enough, rent caps on places to make sure that, or even just honestly, just the number of units in general, like for people, like we just don't have the number of places needed to house everybody that is facing income insecurity. So that would be number one. But on top of that, even if you gave everybody houses, that wouldn't solve it because you still have those underlying addiction. You still have the underlying mental health issue, right? So I mean, mental health in this country has been deteriorating at increased level over the last few years. The pandemic certainly didn't help, right? As just kind of isolates feelings of loneliness and things like that people experience or other things that lead to mental health issues. But you still have to really invest in that in our country. And how do we help people that are going through mental illness or mental health crisis? And then addiction, right? Like, I mean, it could be sports betting, it could be alcohol, it could be drugs. Like, you know, we haven't been able to solve that even outside of homelessness, right? But that's definitely an area that has to be addressed if we want to be able to get people off the streets as best we can. So the, I think it's kind of a combination of those three things, like figuring out the addiction issue here. How do we help build more units that are affordable, um, and have enough places for people, and then also how do we treat people that have mental health issues that we can help them live more normal lives.
Right, right. Well, it's really difficult because we all have addictions in our
Yeah,
lives, right? Like everyone
yeah,
does. And
yeah,
addictions aren't necessarily always bad. I could be addicted to going to the gym, I could be addicted
yeah,
to reading books, but I feel like there's a really fine line of addiction in regards to, like, you have this person who starts becoming an alcoholic, and on the surface they're
yeah,
fine, but on the back end their life is kind of falling apart. And I feel like there's a lot of people right there who are like tipping the line with like one or two bad situations leading
yeah.
them to homelessness. And
It's true.
And I imagine that's what it is. Many of these people who are homeless, like, of course, they never dreamed in a million years that they would be homeless, but unfortunately, they had those one or two instances that put them over the ledge, that
Yeah.
caused them to have no other options to put them on the street.
No, 100%. I think unfortunately the worst, you know, bad things are going to happen. This is depressing. Bad things are going to happen to all of us, right? Like things are out of our control that we can't handle. But it's important not to let those things stack, right? Where the weight gets too heavy that you can't get it like off your chest, right? And I think that's unfortunately either through self-inflicted situations or just really, really horrible luck and no support system. That's what happens a lot. I mean, some of the saddest stuff is like people that show up wearing like decently nice clothes and they're just like I just lost my job this week. I was living paycheck to paycheck. Like I literally didn't think I was going to be homeless or I'm sleeping in my car now. Like in Kansas City, they're opening up like a parking lot where people can go to park their car to sleep at night. Like that's one, it's wild that that's a solution that we have to take. But two, it's just like we've kind of just accepted it's like, well, it has, it's going to happen. We go, so we might as well try and make it like as safe as we can to have an area where people can stay in their car and sleep. But yeah, no one really expects that that's how it's gonna end up, right? But I think that's the importance of having like social groups and social organizations that are there to kind of be the backstop because unfortunately you can fall a long way, like to the point where, living on the streets, having literally nothing, right? Like, how do we at least get some intervention out there where we can help people kind of climb back up, right? And you can't make somebody, it's hard to pull somebody up a ladder, but you can at least motivate people and give them an opportunity to start climbing back. So I think that's important
Yeah,
too.
absolutely, man. Well, and how has creating and running Street Support KC impacted you? And what have you learned since starting it? And how has it made you appreciate your life more?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, I thought it would like make me nicer. You know what I mean? Like I thought that's like, well, like when you're younger, these people that run nonprofits, you're like, wow, those guys, they must be so calm in every part of their life, and they just must be so like their heart must just be so full. And it's like I'm still in traffic, like honking at people that are like cutting me off and stuff like that. So I always think it's funny that like people are like, oh, he does this cool thing. It's like that's definitely part of it. That's great. It's like, but I'm sure other people will tell you like I might be insufferable in other parts of my life or whatever. So I just think that's important to keep in mind. Is just like everybody's like human, right? And so it's like the way that I view my nonprofit and the way that like I have it fit into my life is I think I'm pretty good at separating from it if like I don't want to think about it or if I don't want to, you know, in some ways I am. But then there's other ways where it's like my garage is full of stuff that's just like ton of stuff that we need to give out like for our next event and stuff like that. So it's like it's always there. It's kind of always present. So but it's nice. It's like in some ways it's like an added pressure, like an added like stress of like, hey, I'm running this thing. Like from an organization perspective, like other people that are volunteering now are spending their time. I want to make good use of it. So there's like that piece of it, right? But then there's the piece of it that's like just getting around people and like seeing their story and really connecting with the people at our events, both the volunteers and the people that are experiencing homelessness has just been like so like eye opening. Like the one just to that lifestyle, how it existed, because I didn't have a lot of exposure. This wasn't like I wasn't like interested in homelessness from like a young age. Like I didn't volunteer in high school or college or anything. It just kind of just came about. So like I feel like I'm still learning so much about different things and even like what life on the street is like. Like for example, one of the first things I did when I started like volunteering and buying stuff was like, oh, I'll do these little drawstring bags so people can like uh carry more stuff and just have somewhere to put like food and whatnot. And I was like, oh, I'll get a variety of colors that people can choose from, and like people only chose dark colors. And I was like, oh, I was like curious. I asked one guy, I'm like, how come you guys only chose like the dark colors? Like, well, if we're sleeping in an alley, we've got like a bright yellow backpack, like people could see us and like kick us out of there. And so it's like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that. So it's like open my eyes to things like you would never really even consider unless you were in that situation. So I would say that sort of learning, and then I look back at my own life, and it's like, yeah, if something doesn't go my way, it's pretty easy to pull from like the Saturday events where I'm like, okay, well, remember like how lucky you are, and like just feeling like a greater sense of gratitude, like when things do go your way, because whether we like to admit it, I think a lot of our life is just luck. Like just
Hmm.
like we all work hard to put ourselves in good positions for opportunities and whatnot, but it's like at the end of the day, like sometimes things just come down to luck and just the support system and everything around you, and some of that stuff's out of your control. So I think just having more gratitude for how things have worked out has been a huge part of my journey with this too.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're the perfect example of the value in all of our lives of committing yourself to something that's bigger than yourself, committing yourself to a cause that directly impacts and benefits many people outside of the people that in your family or maybe in your friend
Yeah.
circle. And it's a testament to you because it's it takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy. You're sacrificing a lot, but at the end
Yeah.
of the day, as in many of these scenarios, you're probably getting back more than even what you're giving, just in regards to seeing the reaction of people's faces when you give them a sleeping bag, knowing
Yeah.
that you are contributing to them having a more comfortable experience on the streets. Like that's a powerful feeling. And in life, when we give back so much more. And again, I think you are the perfect example of that in this scenario.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I've heard it described as like planting trees that you won't sit under the shade of, basically, right? Like you're just
Mhm.
furthering or trying to help other people. I've always liked the way that I thought about that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it sounds almost like cheesy to say, but it's like I do get so much back that like would be really hard to buy. You know what I mean? Like it's like the same feeling when you get done at the gym, right? Like you can't replace that feeling with anything else. Like when you feel really good about your workout and you're like, all right, cool, I spent time doing something that's very productive. And like that's how I feel with my nonprofit, where it's like I never regret any time I spent doing it and I enjoy doing it. So it's like it's honestly just like a good hobby to have that's just incredibly rewarding. And so I would love to, have that and grow it to where I'm doing it full time someday, right? We've got a lot of steps to go before we get there, but um, yeah, it's just nice knowing that you can make a difference and you kind of get that immediate feedback, which is nice because there's a lot of problems I can't solve or that I'm not going to see, like climate change, where it's like, yeah, I can recycle, I can do stuff like that, but like I'm never going to get a direct feedback of anything that would probably give me the same positivity and like motivation to continue, right? Like working with people that are experiencing homelessness, you see right away the impact you make, which is, speaking to what you were saying earlier about like not all addiction is bad, like that's kind of a nice addiction to have, is like wanting to see people happier and knowing that you can do something about that. So I think that's definitely one area where I've been able to experience a lot of cool things over the last, 2 years, is just growing that part of what it's like to give and help other people and be less selfish.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to leading where you are, making an impact where you are. We've all been given these God-given abilities that are unique to each and every one of us in how we
Yep.
can make incredible lives, but also directly impact the lives of everyone in our communities, everyone around us. And again, it's taking these abilities and not holding on to them, but giving to them. And in giving your abilities, in giving your time, in giving your energy, you are going to receive so much back from God, from the universe, than you ever even imagined. And again, I see that with you and Street Support KC, and I see that in myself with Podium. Our football recruiting business, which is a for-profit business that at times I'm like, this may as well be a nonprofit because we don't make a ton of money at the moment. But for us, it's helping these young athletes play professional football. It's helping them
Yep.
navigate the process to earning a professional contract, because it's really difficult to make the NFL, right? Less than 1% of college football players make the NFL. Well, 99% of college football players want to play professionally somewhere.
Yeah.
And so that's where we fill that gap. We help them go play in Europe, help them play indoor football so they can continue living their dream and living their best life. And so that is how I am making an impact with the resources and the experience and the knowledge that I have. A completely different scenario from you and helping people who are experiencing homelessness, but it's solving a need nonetheless, and it's contributing my God-given abilities for the better community. And so I love the connection and the synergy that we both have there.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. I think, oftentimes, whether it be through popular culture, whether it be just through real life examples, like I think selfish tendencies tend to, or not be maybe glorified, but like seem to be given more opportunities, right? Like people that are very, I don't know, self introspective, people that are kind of looking out for themselves 24/7 are able to do a lot, right? And I think the public view of helping others sometimes is like, oh well, it's not seen with the same level of success as somebody that's like just focused on their career, right? Or just focused on something or like whatever else. But I think giving back is such a huge, it's been like a huge unlock for me because for so many years I was that person who was like, well, I care about me first and foremost in every situation. Like, and I still do care about myself, but I think it also the power of empathy and understanding other people and knowing how you can give back and you can make things easier, right? Like that's what we should all strive for. Like that's the whole point of we're all living in the same country, same city, same town, whatever else. Like I think the default sometimes is like, well, I don't want anybody to have more than me, right? So I'm going to hang on to this knowledge or I'm going to hang on to this resource just because if I share it, then everybody has access to it, right? Versus like, hey, I've accumulated all this knowledge and it's taken me, I mean, the amount of trials and successes and failures you've had with Podium that I've had with Street Sport KC, it's like those are all valuable lessons and you can pass along to people to be like, hey, I did this and it didn't work out, or hey, I did this and it worked out amazing, or I know you're hesitant about this, but here's how I can help you out, in this area. It's giving that back, it always comes back to you, like you were saying. Like I'm a big believer in the karma of that when you put more good energy out there and you create more good opportunities for other people, like you're going to get that back because you're just building a network of people that are looking out for each other. And you can always go farther together than you can by yourself. So I think that's a great example you had.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And your talent to the world in the way that you need. So, to the flip side of that, I feel like people can adopt this altruistic mindset where all they care about is helping other people and they're putting other people's needs before their own. And that is at a detriment to themselves because we can't help people in the way that we need to if our personal needs aren't met, if our spiritual needs, if our physical needs, if our financial needs, our emotional needs, if these things aren't met, then we can't give our gifts in the best way possible. And so I
Yep.
think when you have all these critics out there about people who are criticizing people who are chasing finances, who are chasing money, who are chasing a certain lifestyle, that's not bad at its core. Because if that person makes a bunch of money and is
Yep.
all of their needs are met, then they can go and benefit the world in a completely different way than someone who is broke can. And so again, it's really important that we don't all fall into this altruistic, I just want to help, I have no money, into that mindset, because you can't give to the world in the best of your abilities if you're broke, if you don't have your physical emotional needs met, etc.
Well, exactly. I mean, you have to put on your own oxygen mask before you help somebody else put on theirs, right? Like you have to be able to look out for yourself. And that's the way that I run street sport is like, yes, I want to give every single last dollar that we possibly collect and, spend that every single month, right? But I also need to think long term for the organization and be like, okay, like, I need to run this like an actual business, right? Otherwise, it's never going to work out. And I think you said with nonprofits sometimes is where it's like the mission becomes everything, and then some, right? Where people are just forgetting that there is also it's an incorporated company. Like I need to be able to run that in a way that's transparent with donors, but also in a way that is responsible for like the long term success of that. So sometimes it means, okay, well, we can't have quite as many of this thing at this event, even though I really want that because I need to make sure we have this really enough money for this really important item next month, right? And so I think that's I'll never fault anybody for taking care of their own needs. Like you have to. Like there's just no way. Like, and I'm only able to do this because I, make a good living, in my day job. If I didn't, like, I probably just honestly probably would not be running a nonprofit. It's like a privileged thing to do where it's like, yes, because my needs are taken care of in a different area, I can afford to spend all my time doing this thing that doesn't pay me anything, right? But
Mm.
somebody that's living paycheck to paycheck, right? It's like they might be closer to being homeless than starting a homeless nonprofit. Like, and so that's a really tough thing, I think, for anybody. So you just have to know where you're at in your life. And if you have the ability or the financial security to, speak the truth or to give back, I do think that's something that we should all look to do, right? But obviously you have to be in a situation where that makes sense because the last thing you want to do is neglect yourself and end up in a spot where you actually need, the assistance of other people when the whole thing that you were trying to do was to help other people. So it really is it's a fine line. You just have to know your own situation and kind of understand how you can help. But I think there's an opportunity for everybody to help in some way. It's just how much can you afford to help?
Absolutely. And getting back to what I was saying, a lot of what I was saying came from personal experience in
Yeah.
regards to podium. I was actually able to lead the business in a better way when I didn't need to make money from the business. I was
Yeah.
I was better able to support and help these athletes and provide a better service when I wasn't trying to extract money from them. Literally. And so
Yeah.
uh, again, where I was going to was there's this mentality of like pursue your passion, pursue what's on your heart, and yes, to an extent that works, but at the same time, it's okay to pursue something that makes money and to pursue your passions uh, outside of the way that you make money because
Yeah.
it allows you to enjoy these things and to not be reliant on it. Because when you have to do something in order to make money, it often takes the love and the fun out of that passion anyway. And so
Yeah.
that's really where I was going with that in that last statement.
No, you're totally right. I mean, there's, well, first of all, it's just not feasible for us to have 330 million nonprofits in the United States. Like one person sets up a whole nonprofit, right? It's like that just doesn't, where everybody's kind of got their own and doing their own thing. Like it's good to have some people that can, set up and continue to kind of fight for that sort of stuff. And then there are other people that we're going to need engineers and architects and doctors and lawyers. And it's like, yeah, go do your thing, right? Like, I think the thing that you said that like makes a ton of sense is just being able to balance it, right? Being able to find like, okay, now I've gone through and I've followed my or career passion, right? And it's like, what are your passions outside of that? Because I do think no matter what you do, you know, it's always a fine line of letting your job become your identity, right? It's like figuring out what you like to do outside of your work, and maybe it's a nonprofit, maybe it's in the way that like you're giving back to athletes that are wanting to make it big, right? It's like how do you balance your own needs and growing that and filling the role that you ultimately want to that you're interested in while also discovering stuff about yourself outside of your job that can be even
Mhm.
more rewarding than maybe you even thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting back to when I became vice president of RCM Construction, I knew nothing about construction. Getting into that job, I had never had any interest in construction my entire life. Like I purposely avoided it. I don't even know how to swing a hammer properly. No, I'm kidding. But the point is that that job really showed me that I could love my job, not caring about the actual work, but I loved the people I worked with. I
Yeah.
loved the sales aspect of it. And I loved that I was contributing successfully to this organization, helping it improve operations, helping it grow. And yet, again, the I didn't care about the actual building of buildings per se. Like that wasn't a passion of
Yeah.
mine. Now my love for it actually started to grow within that business, but the things that I were passionate about was all outside of that business. And so that job showed me for the first time in my life, like, hey, if you're making good money and you're contributing and you have a great team, like you can become super happy just from having that, just from being in that scenario.
Oh, 100%. I think sometimes people get too caught up in like the specific company or the specific industry. Like everybody wants to work in certain sectors. Like they never have to pay people that want a job at the Kansas City Chiefs for marketing, like, an exorbitant amount of money because there's such a line of people that want to do that job, right? But for like a waste management company, is that same type of a queue for people that really want to get in there? Maybe not, but you could argue that the job at the second company could be even more rewarding, right? Because I don't think there's always a connection between, oh, I love this company, I love this industry, and oh, I love this job. Like those are two different things. And to what you said earlier, it's like, yeah, if you go and like you're dealing with that, maybe like say the Kansas City Chiefs, or you're dealing with like a really big organization that, or I always thought it would be really cool to work for like AMC theaters. Like my first job in high school was working at a movie theater. Like I go all the time. I always thought that'd be so cool. But then I literally did have those thoughts of like, well, but if I'm doing movies like all day, am I gonna come home and be like, oh God, I don't want to watch movies today? I'm like, well, that would kill it for me. Like because that's like one of
Hmm.
my favorite things to do, and all of a sudden I'm gonna introduce, and I kind of feel that way about social media now. Like doing digital media, I do social media all day for work. That when I come home, sometimes the last thing I want to do is social media. And so it's
Hmm.
like you do have to realize that there are more than to liking a job than just the company you work for, the industry you work for. And I totally get your example of like, hey, I went into this industry and thought, oh boy, I had all these preconceived notions of like, well, I don't think it's gonna be super interesting, or, yeah, I think I understand it, but you find more reward in helping an organization, regardless of the organization, accomplish a goal with people you like while making good living than you would a company you really like with people you don't want to work with. You're not making enough money and the organization kind of sucks. So it's a way that it's just like you have to balance everything in life. And I totally agree. Sometimes those under the radar jobs or things that you didn't think you would like for whatever reason is sometimes the things you end up liking the most when you look back at your career.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Matt, as we start to bring this to a close, tell the people what's a motto or a quote that you live by.
Yeah, one I've been thinking a lot of lately is I've really tried to like break out of my comfort zone with certain things, whether it be reaching out to people to see if they want to donate, reaching out for, new business opportunities, or just, even doing more LinkedIn videos, like talking about things that like I'm passionate about. It's that if you want to achieve things other people haven't, you have to do things that other people won't. And
Mm,
so you can never get farther by doing the same stuff as everybody else, right? Unless you're just fully reliant on luck or a good family you were born into or an advantageous position that's out of your control. But for 99.9% of us, if you want to get somewhere really high and you want to do things that are not commonly achieved, you have to do things that people don't want to do. So are there times where I'm like, oh man, I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. and drive an hour to go talk to a Rotary Club to see if they want to donate money to my nonprofit? Not really. Like on a Thursday when I wake up, it sounds great before I schedule, and the day of, I'm like, oh man, I wish I could just like go back to bed. But I know it's going to be helpful to me, and I believe it's part of a bigger, cause than just myself. So you do it, right? And there could be other people who are like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm sure you have your experience, whether from work or just from sports, of people who are willing to put in the effort every single day, maybe even if they're not seeing returns, and the people that are just willing to kind of do the minimum they need to do, and then are also sometimes the ones complaining, like, well, I don't get why so and so is getting ahead of me. It's like I'm doing everything, and they're like, well, are you though? Like, And so I think for a long time, I was telling myself, it's like, well, you're doing everything you can, like whatever else, and then you just kind of realize that you're always just capable of more and you can do more. And it's about finding that balance. But for me, I think it's just pushing myself outside of the comfort zone and doing what other people aren't willing to do, because that's how you get success.
Absolutely. I love that quote and that philosophy, and it's so accurate, and it goes back into like walking by faith, not by sight. You might not be seeing the fruits of your labor, but it's trusting the process and falling
Yep.
in love with the process and letting go of the expectation. Because if you know that you're putting that work in on a day-to-day basis, the results are inevitable, right?
Yep.
And it goes back to the podcast that I had with Kian a couple episodes ago, where he's like, just stay in it. Just don't die. Just stay in it.
Yeah.
Just stay in it. Just stay in it. Just keep putting the work down. Put your head down. Just stay in it. And it's
Yep.
like most people aren't willing to continue to do something if the results aren't here. But
Yep.
it's those people that give up in the third quarter that never see the fruits of their labor when the fourth quarter hits, and then all of a sudden you hit the buzzer beater and you have this big break, and then everything that you've been working towards comes into your life and you're like, this is what I've been waiting for. But
Yep.
you had to remain persistent and you had to continue to do the things that other people weren't doing in order to receive that blessing. And so, absolutely, man, that is
Yeah.
a quote that I value and love to live by as well.
Yeah. I mean, you're so right, because when you don't get any sort of acknowledgement for the sacrifices you're making, a lot of people can just go into, well, then it's not worth it, right? But I think about it like compound interest, right? It's like you're not going to wake up one day with like a six pack, right? Because you went to the gym one time, right? It's because you're doing things consistently over a long period of time. And it's the same with investing, same with anything, right? It's like small incremental improvements over time create really large changes. And you have to be able to, like he had said, sit in it and just accept the fact that you're making change even if you can't measure it, right? It's easy to find reasons to stop doing something. Like it's easy to be like, oh, well, I don't have to do this, or, whatever else, or to kind of make excuses for yourself. But this sheer satisfaction you get after being able to kind of persevere and get opportunities that other people aren't getting, or creating other things that other people haven't, because of just your tenacity and unwillingness to give up, is a high that's like, they call it like a runner's high, right? I've never gotten one because I don't like to run, but I imagine this is similar to what it is. You just feel good and you're like, okay, yeah, all right. Like I see why people do this. I see why people work hard. Like,
Mhm.
but you have to be able to stay in there and just work through it, because success doesn't come easy. Otherwise, everybody would be successful.
Right, right. And the smartest doesn't always win. It
No.
is the person that can stay in it the longest, that can embrace that tension, stay in it, and put the work in and day out. And again, if you're able to persist and grind and sit in the tension of the uncertainty, sit in the tension of this might not work out, but just continue doing the work, like the magic is inevitably coming your way.
Yep.
So
Absolutely,
awesome,
man.
man. Cool, Matt. Well, this has been awesome, brother. How can people find you, find out about Street KC? Tell them.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to support Street Sport KC, go to streetsportkc.org. Or you can also follow our social media. All of our handles are Street Sport KC. If you're looking for me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, Digital Rabbit is a side project that does website and SEO consulting, which is partly how I'm able to give so much time back to Street Sport. So if anybody's interested in that, you can go to digitalrabbitkc.com. But otherwise, just keep following this podcast. I'm sure I'll be a recurring weekly guest at this point, right? So,
You got to earn that, Matty.
yeah, okay. I'm willing to try.
Yeah. Awesome,
Well,
man.
thanks. Well, I
Great.
appreciate you having me on, man. I think it's really cool what you're doing. I love the type of conversations that you've been having with people, and I just think there's such a wide variety of topics that you cover that no matter who's listening, like you can always get something really interesting out of it. So you're doing great, and I appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate appreciate that a lot, brother. So you
Yeah, man.
take care, and we will
Sounds
talk to
good,
you
buddy.
soon.
All right, see you, man.
See ya.